What is up, Nerf Nation? I'm Naptown Nerf, and today we are going to be doing a complete overhaul and dive into the Dart Zone Pro. If you want to know everything there is to know about modding or the possibilities of modding your Dart Zone Pro Mark 1 or Mark 1.1, then you're going to definitely want to check out this video. Let's jump right in. So we're going to crack this thing open today and see what we can do internally to this blaster to make it actually usable with more darts than just the ones that came with the blaster. So I've heard that this is pretty difficult to get inside of. Hopefully I'll have a little bit better luck than others. I don't know. Maybe not. So I guess we're just going to have to see what we can do. But I want to show you guys one thing real quick. This will actually go in here and release this spring, so you don't have to take the blaster apart at all. So I think that's pretty darn sweet. We can just undo these two screws here. And then we can take this tool in here and just twist it, and then it just releases it really easily. And there is our spring. So that's pretty darn sweet. We'll go ahead and see if we can get this off, because I've heard that that's like the most difficult part, and then we'll get rid of all the other screws and see what we got inside. Yeah, that's really stupid. That is extremely stupid. Even if you get it off without breaking a tab off, which honestly it's just too flimsy of plastic. This is actually really thin, cheap plastic here that you're just gonna mess up no matter what. I don't even know what the point of that piece is. Yeah, that's pretty darn stupid. These tabs don't bend very easily, and they have a flat surface there, so they're meant to go. This piece is meant to go on and not come off. And then this orange plastic is just really, really thin. So we got it off. It broke, but oh well. I guess we'll take out the rest of the screws. All right, the next trick is to get this rubber grip off. And I think there's some glue in here, so hopefully I can just pry that off, because we definitely don't want to mess that up, because that is the best part of the blaster. But yeah, there's just a little glue right there. All right, that wasn't too bad. There's just a little bit of glue up here at the top, actually, and I just used a flathead screwdriver and very carefully removed that, and then just easily worked its way off there. So got two more screws under here that we have to remove, and then we should be able to get this thing open, I hope. Hopefully these tabs work out better than the others. All right, so you just had to pry up a little bit on those. Just be careful, because that is pretty fragile. You can see a little stress marks there now, but it should be all right. Didn't break, so that's good. So go ahead and remove this. This is a part that I think is going to be the biggest issue. These screws are all the same size, so that's a good thing, so we don't have to worry about getting any mixed up. But as you can see, it's basically a retaliator style system, which we all knew about really going in just by the outside look of it. But that is the breech. But look how long that thing is. That is basically the length of a full-length dart. But we do have a really nice metal catch back here that really gives this a nice trigger pull. And we have a little part on the plunger, actually, that hooks into this, what looks to be exactly like a retaliator bolt sled. So we might be even able to upgrade this to like a metal one. This seems to be fairly strong. I don't know what kind of plastic they used, but you know, it's not as strong as metal, which I think they should have gone metal with a few more of these parts given the price point. Let's go ahead and try to get into this plunger tube assembly here, which is like a coffin, and it is Halloween actually right today, so that's kind of funny. But yeah, it's basically a tomb, which I think Bradley Phillips called it, and he had quite a bit of difficulty because there's all these tabs, like tabs. I hate tabs. I really hate tabs. Screws, good. Tabs, bad. That is a delicate situation. It's not too difficult. You just kind of have to work under there and pry it off, but it does bend and put stress marks on all those plastic tabs that are very weak. They're not very strong at all. So let's see now. We can just get that off of there. There we go. And that is our plunger tube, which looks very similar to like a worker expanded plunger tube for the Retaliator. There's our catch. That is pretty darn beefy. That is very nice. Glad they went with that. It is hefty. Very, very nice piece of rubber right there. Let's see if it does seem like it has a really nice seal. So I don't think we have to do much with that. That seems like it's really good. This seems to be pretty good here. So yeah, that's okay, yep. That's a tight seal. So that's fine. Not worried about that. So honestly, unless you need to put a different spring on and have to modify this to do so, you may not even have to open this part up. The seal issues seem to be happening from this point forward, from what I can tell. Alright, so I pulled some parts out of my CETA, but these are all worker parts actually that we're looking at here. And it's very interesting because I think all these are the exact same. Basically, besides the way they designed the pusher tip here, everything's the same. Let's see, the internal diameter looks the same from the naked eye. I think it's basically exact copy besides this part. So there you go. We'll see if it fits in here. That'll tell us something. It's a tight fit. There we go. Yep, that seems to be just fine. And let's see if this plastic part will fit down inside the metal. That'll be the question. Yeah, fits perfect. So that should work without issue. So that part could be completely replaced, which is good to know. And you can do that without even removing anything here. And then we can put this in here. And we can replace our barrel, and all that looks like it will work just fine. So that's pretty cool. So there they are inside, and as you can see, that looks like it should work just fine. That's pretty cool though that the blues almost match. Almost, not quite, but really close. That looks like it'll work just fine, like they tested it like this first before creating their own parts. Maybe. And then I guess the other question is, will this go on here? Let's see here. Oh, maybe. Yeah, that'll work just fine. So you can just push that right on there, and that will hold it in, and that will actually stabilize the barrel just fine. So you can do that. That looks like it'll work great. I think I'm going to go ahead and order these parts. So before I put this thing all back together, I want to point out one thing that's going to make it a little bit challenging to replace your bolt sled with a metal one, and that is finding the knurled inserts to go in here that will fit these thumb screws. One thing I really like about this design, especially over the CETA, is that it has those mounted in there and they actually screw inside that. The CETA thumb screws just go into this opening and just are kind of loose there so they can unscrew very easily. So I do like that, but we're going to have to find something to go in here to allow this to thread in. So it's probably something I could source. I don't think it's going to be impossible, but it is something that I will have to do when I get my new bolt sled. Obviously, there are not any locks that are keeping you from being able to deprime this. The reason why you cannot deprime this blaster is because the plunger tube is back here when it is primed. Obviously, when the pump is pulled all the way back, and then obviously you cannot engage the catch when it's back here. You cannot engage it till it's all the way 40, and that's why you're not able to deprime the system, because of this moving plunger tube. This is what allows it to chamber full-length darts, so it's a really cool system. I like how they did that. That's probably the coolest thing about this design to me, is that they were able to make this a moving plunger tube, obviously because they went with their own shell design over like a standard retaliator design. But yeah, that's the reason why you cannot deprime the blaster. All right, you guys, so we finally got our package from AK Blaster Mods. They are really quick at shipping stuff out. It went out like immediately once like the day I ordered it, it went out like a few hours later that night, I guess, which over there may be during the day, obviously, but it did take a little time getting through customs. It was a little delayed, but usually they are very fast considering they are all the way on the other side of the world. So very happy to get this package, and we will crack it open and have some stuff to test out. So there are a few things in here, this being one of them that is not for this project. But we have all these other parts. We have the Prophecy Worker kit, which is awesome because we will have a new pusher and a barrel. We will not need the mag release because the one, well, I assume we won't need this because the one that comes in it is awesome, but we will need this breech piece. The plastic version probably would work fine too, but I went ahead and got the blue metal version because it kind of coordinates with the priming bars. Very, very close. Not perfect match, but very close. And then this is not for this project. This is to replace the one I used for Jill's Strife that I painted. And then we got a bunch of CETA springs that we will use. This one's obviously, oh, I like that they labeled them. So 12K, 16K. So we have a few different options. I got a 9K, and I believe one more 12K, I think, comes with this kit. And I bought this kit because this, I'm hoping this plunger tube will replace the plunger tube in our Dart Zone Pro. I'm not sure it's going to fit. We may need to play around with the O-ring size, but I think this is for the worker plunger tube, and I believe it has a very similar inner diameter. So we will see if this works. Have no idea, but that's what's fun about this project is we're just going to kind of see what works and what doesn't work, and then hopefully you guys won't have to go through this process. So that's pretty cool. I did get a metal bolt sled, and then we got more parts. This is the Prophecy spring. I've heard that this will work, but I tried it in mine and it just didn't feel, it does prime and catch, but it just didn't feel very good. I think it's because it's just a little bit bigger diameter, but something that people could tinker around with and possibly get to work just as a spring upgrade. And then we got some O-rings and stuff for that pusher. So let's get the thing cracked back open and see what will work in this thing. All right, you guys, so this plunger seems to be just a tad big, or a tad bigger than this one. It definitely has a lot more friction going. I mean, it fits in there, but there's a lot more friction there than this. All right, so I think I actually found an O-ring that I like a little bit better. I'm not 100% sure where this O-ring came from, but it does have a pretty good fit. It's a little bit tighter than the stock one. All right, you guys, so I finally got the knurl inserts that actually fit the threading on these, which it took about 3 months. This is about 3 months later after I started this project. Seems to be a trend with my projects lately, but these are unfortunately a little loose, pretty loose actually to fit in there, but they will work, and I think I'm going to glue mine in. You could finagle it so they just rest in there, and then it would be kind of similar to how the CETA primes, how it just screws in and it just stays in that gap and primes, you know. But if you want to undo these, then they're just going to come out and fall off. So I don't plan on using this bolt sled for anything else. I plan on using it in this, and I really don't want to have to take this apart again, because those tabs are on their last legs. The more times you take this thing apart, the weaker it gets. So it's very disappointing. But if you are wanting to pick some of these up, my friend Matt Becker is the one that sourced these. So if you know him on Facebook, feel free to contact him there if you want to purchase some. But if you don't know him on Facebook, then I would recommend contacting Blaster Core's Etsy, because he's one of the members of Blaster Core, and they're the ones that sell my patches. So while you're there, go ahead and pick up a patch. Why not? Anyways, I just wanted to give you that information. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to glue these in here, probably using some epoxy. I just got to make sure they're centered right, which is going to be the trick. All right, you guys, so this blaster has been an absolute pain, and I've had nothing but problems trying to modify it. Some of which is probably just because I've been trying to see what's compatible with the blaster, and pretty much everything I tested was compatible. So that's really good. It's really awesome that things like the worker parts do fit in here. It's very interesting to me that pretty much everything is compatible. So that's good. It's just an absolute pain to open and close though. So I highly recommend you don't do that. It's not meant to be opened and closed multiple times. If you plan on doing any of these modifications, try to only have to do them once, which is kind of a problem because with springers, to make sure they're functioning correctly, you kind of have to put everything back together to figure it out and see how well it's performing. That's just how you modify springers, is you have to close them up, test, and then reopen them up. And that's why it's so important to make blasters, especially high-performing blasters like this, make them so you can open them up easily and then close them again. So this project has taken me months to get finished, mainly because I paused for those knurled inserts. But after that, I've had some other major issues. But first, I realized I lost some footage that I think is pretty important, and the reason why this needed to be opened up in the first place is because the way this breech connects with this barrel, with this little piece here, how it slots in there, and then this goes in there. There's just no way, it's a tight fit, but there's no way to get a perfect air seal like this. Like, that's just a really bad design. The way Jet does it with the threading is a really good way to do it, because then you can add Teflon tape underneath the threads. They even have O-rings for both sides of the threading, even the threading that goes to the scar with the CETA Model S or the Alpha RT kit, which is awesome, and that gives you the ability to get a perfect seal. You cannot get a perfect seal this way. So this is why you really only can fire their bamboo darts or Dart Zone Pro darts effectively, because of the way they're designed with the foam. So that's the reason why we needed to upgrade this in the first place, because when you go to a war, the likelihood of them only having those kinds of darts is none. Like, I don't know a single club that only has Dart Zone Pro darts, if they have any at all. So this modification, I think, is pretty important, just to be able to get your blaster to have a full seal so it can fire other types of darts somewhat effectively. So I would highly recommend doing this, and to do this, you don't have to open up anything besides the main portion of the shell, which is just getting this part off is a major pain, so that is still going to be a problem. I would recommend probably trying to pry off the orange part up, because this is very bendable, rather than trying to bend the gray parts down so this will slide off, because the gray plastic is very brittle and it will leave stress marks every time you move it. But I've had pretty good luck getting this part open without breaking these tabs. This part, on the other hand, not so much. I broke that tab, if you can see there, and I broke this tab, and that's just because I've had to open and close it so many times. Like, these get major stress marks on it, and they just will break after you do it so many times. It's just the nature of the beast. So I did try this with a Monkey Mods barrel that was longer and with a heavier spring load, but the plunger head that I got from AK Blaster Mods failed. I actually went through this whole video. I did a firing test for everybody, and it seemed to work well, and then right after that, it stopped catching. I wonder why that could have been. So definitely don't recommend purchasing this unless AK Blaster Mods finds a way to make it a lot stronger, because that connection right there is super thin, and that, I don't know how they thought that was going to work. I don't care what material this is made out of, and I don't know what this is made out of, but it isn't as hard of a plastic as you would think, but it's just not a great quality plunger head. I've had pretty good luck with the one I have in my CETA. That whole kit seems to be working well, so hopefully that one is designed a little bit better with the thickness, because it is a different size plunger head and whatnot, so hopefully that one doesn't fail. But this one, garbage. Don't do that. Don't buy that. That was failed, which is a little disappointing because the plunger head here, the only way you can use this with CETA springs is if you open this whole coffin up and remove some of this plastic. And I honestly have decided that I don't think I want to do that. I've just had too many issues with this already, and I'm just going to keep the stock spring for now and hope that somebody makes aftermarket springs that are the right size to work with this blaster, because it's really easy to go in and change the spring out afterwards. But if I modify this and this breaks, I'm pretty screwed. Now, I wouldn't think it would if you just take off a thin part of the plastic, so you'd probably be okay. I think Bradley Phillips has done that with his, and he hasn't had any issues. But I just have had a lot of bad luck with this project, so I'm just going to leave it as is. And honestly, because I'm really only recommending people modify this part of their blaster and not do the rest. I mean, you can do this if you want, but if you're not upgrading the spring, I don't think you need a metal bolt sled, and I honestly don't think this can handle really too much more of a spring load, because I also had to reinforce the bottom of where the catch plate is, because this had major stress marks in it, and I think that was because it was holding 12 kg over the 9 kg. And just because this moves and floats in here, that is very important, and the catch is holding that spring load and moving, and so that is basically, that thin piece of plastic is all that is holding the catch and all that spring load. So I reinforced that, but you can't really add too much plastic there because there's not enough room. So I just had added some styrene foam with a good solid MMA DevCon epoxy plastic welder, which should reinforce that somewhat and give it just a little more thickness, because that's just a very thin part there. So highly recommend keeping an eye on that, and you can do that without opening this part up. I just don't recommend really opening this part of the blaster up if you don't have to. So we will go ahead and put everything back together and hope that it works well. And I'm going to actually not use this because I just want to give you guys the best test possible of what I recommend you do to your Dart Zone Pro if you want to do these modifications, or the modifications I recommend. I don't think that changing this out is going to change performance much, if any. Hopefully we get a good seal. It seems like this has a pretty good seal from the eye test in here, so it seems like the fit is the same, but this does have a solid seal, so this is always an option and easy to go back to if we want to. But I just don't think it's super necessary to spend all the money on that bolt sled and whatnot if you're not upgrading the spring. So let's try to get this all back together, basically back in stock form besides the barrel, which is definitely the most important modification. I will show you a little bit of footage of what I was getting before the plunger head broke, and that was between like 190 and 220 depending on how much spring I had. I did some tests with this full length and then I cut it down because it just felt like it was under too much pre-compression, which also probably added to that breaking. But this is only 12 kg, so I didn't even go 16 kg, and also probably added to the stress of this because this was not cut down and was under a lot of pre-compression. But you know, I thought this blaster was going to be high quality enough to be able to hold up to 12 kg, but I guess not. I don't know. That didn't completely fail on me, but I didn't want it to, so I reinforced it. But yeah, let's go ahead and get this all back together and see how we're doing after that. All right, you guys, so I'm going to have to apologize off the bat as I've basically run out of almost all my half-length darts testing this blaster and other blasters because I don't have a long enough area to shoot, and most of them end up in the pond. But I do have a few. They're just not brand new. I have some Jet ACC style darts, which are not very good darts, but I'm just shooting them mainly to test that they can shoot out of this blaster. Then we have some Worker Gen 3 darts, which are very used, so keep that in mind. And then we have some slightly used Dart Zone Pro darts, which are the best dart, and if I could only use one dart, those would be the darts I would use, no question. Unfortunately, you can't really buy them just in half lengths. You can only buy them in their, I think it's a 200 pack, which is 100 half lengths and 100 full length darts. And speaking of full lengths, we'll also test a few full length Dart Zone Pro darts just to prove that it can still shoot these. I wouldn't really recommend shooting any other full length dart. I don't think I have some Worker full length darts, but I've don't think those are very good from the little testing I've done with them. And you can shoot elite darts out of this, but if you're shooting elite darts, I don't know why you've watched this entire video. So we'll go ahead and fire off some Dart Zone Pro darts, because those are really the only thing I recommend firing in terms of long darts out of this system. But obviously this isn't going to get quite the performance I was hoping for because we went back to the 9 kg spring. But for the fact of firing all types of darts, we will see how it does. 164. Duplicate 164, 166, 166, 160. So I would say that's very similar to what I was getting beforehand. Go ahead and try the half length darts now. Wow, those are just terrible darts. 174. 162. I will note, side note, Jet has, these are not the darts that you will get if you buy the C to S. You will actually get a different style of nipple tip dart, which used to be called Pac D darts, which are in theory better. They have longer stems and better glue and should fly better. I have yet to test them, but they cannot be worse than these. I highly doubt they're as good as the Dart Zone Pro darts, but they should not be this bad. That's just a side note. 164. Now we'll try some Worker Gen 3s. 167. That was a bad dart. 128, that one flew all kinds of crazy. 173. 161. 167. 166, and now Dart Zone Pro darts should get the best performance, I would think. 174, 174, 173. That one didn't fly very well. 174, 174, very consistent. So very good performance, very similar to what you got stock, but now we can fire all types of darts, not just the Dart Zone Pro ones. So if you're wondering why I didn't put the grip back on, it's because I haven't solidified exactly all internally what I want to end up with. I may go back and put that metal bolt sled in just since I own it. And the only other downside to this is the barrel length. If you use that standard worker barrel and don't upgrade to a longer one, which at 9 kg, I don't think you should go much longer than this. You cannot really put a scar barrel on with this attachment on. You'll have to put the scar, take this off, put a scar on, and then find a way to make it so that that holds in here so it doesn't rattle around, so it secures your barrel, because this is what's centering your barrel. Nevertheless, that is a little bit of a disappointment that you can't put a scar barrel on inside this. If it was a little longer, you could put like that worker rifle barrel on inside of it. It actually fits perfectly inside of there. So if you want a scar barrel, I would either recommend removing this or using a slightly longer barrel so you can attach that. So hopefully this helped you guys out. I'm sure it wasn't super exciting to a lot of people, but hopefully it was very informative to people that are thinking about or have tried to modify their Dart Zone Pro Mark 1 or Mark 1.1 when that comes out. Looking forward to the Mark 1.1 to see how they've improved things. I know the stock is supposed to be improved, but I don't think they've really done too much else, but I will buy one to test out for you guys on the channel, and then I'll have one in modified form and one in stock form. And then if I get that, maybe I'll feel comfortable enough of modifying that plunger tube to make it take heavier springs. But for now, we're gonna leave it like this. It is a very solid performing blaster, even without an upgrade, and it's a very easy prime with that 9 kg. So I really probably wouldn't go over 12 kg though, because I worry about that, the way the plunger tube is designed, or the plunger housing and the way the catch holds in there. Just those stress marks, those made me very nervous. So if you do end up trying to modify that plunger tube or that plunger rod, I wouldn't probably go above 12 kg, but that's just my suggestion. You guys do what you want. Hopefully this was very informative to you, because man, it took a lot of work and a lot of effort. So please smash that like button if you enjoyed it. If you found this informative, think about supporting me on Patreon, because this is why I made this YouTube channel. And if you could support me financially, that would be awesome and very, very helpful. If not, just subscribe. If you're not subscribed, ring the bell for notifications so you can be alerted when I post a video. And as always, peace out.